mic in our hands. Watch out.
Oh. You can't see us when you get up there. We're all going to do this again.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 10th Hall of Fame induction ceremony. My name is Tracy Ranieri, and I'm the athletic director. Very proud to be the athletic director here at the College at Oneonta. Today, we will enshrine our highest achievers in our Hall of Fame and celebrate the pride and traditions we hold so dear in college athletics. The College at Oneonta Hall of Fame exemplifies the greatest athletic triumphs in our university's history and also allows us to celebrate the leadership of men and women of vision that have led us to this place and time. The college was established in 1889, and it is recorded that in the spring of that first year, our students organized an athletic association for baseball. Athletics is woven into the fabric of our university's history, and 120 years later, we are honored to recognize another class of self-starting individuals who embody the value-driven skills so evident in the college athlete. It's my honor to recognize previously inducted Hall of Famers that are in the audience today, and I would ask that they stand when I call their name. From the class of 2000, Garth Stan and Don Albin. From the class of 2001, Don Extel, Joe Spanfelner, and Mike Pacintelak. From the class of 2002, Alex Brennan. From the class of 2003, Don Flewelling, Madeline Joliffe, and Don Jester. From the class of 2005, Ted Huntington. From the class of 2006, Kramer Harrington and Ed Leone. From the class of 2007, Kristen Morello Shear. From the class of 2008, Julie Merchant and Elizabeth McGrail. Congratulations to our previous Hall of Famers. An event like this cannot take place without the tremendous help and dedication of a group of professional staff, faculty, and fans of our athletic program. I would be very grateful if the Hall of Fame committee would please stand. Thank you for your year-round commitment to making this event and this day so special. A very special thank you to Assistant Athletic Director and Chair of the Hall of Fame Committee, Jeff Hazard, who sits to my left, and Laura Matalone, the Director of Alumni Affairs, and her staff for their attention to detail in regards to this event today. I also want to say a very special thank you to Dr. Ingersoll and Dr. Perry for their commitment to a winning experience for all of our student athletes. Thank you. This event is being webcast across the country, and I'd like to say a warm welcome to all of our alumni everywhere, and a very special hello to soon-to-be Hall of Famer David Lent and his wife, Marilyn Pattengill Lent. They've been married 56 years. They're both graduates of Oneonta, and they are watching this webcast from Sarasota, Florida. We will try very hard to make you proud, Dave, but I cannot control what George Wetmore has to say about you. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce the president of the college, Dr. Nancy Klanuski.
Thanks, Tracy, and welcome everyone.
It's my happy task today to tell you a little bit about our class. This class joins over 150 alumni who are already members of our Hall of Fame. This year's class spans 50 years in the college's history, with inductees representing 4 different decades. This class includes all conference, all state, and all region athletes. This year's class includes many community and civic-minded leaders. This year's class includes leaders in education, in business, and in professional sports. This year's class includes SUNY champions, NCAA and ECAC tournament participants. This year's class has strong ties to the Oneonta area, with many of the inductees growing up in the city of Oneonta. This year's class includes athletes that still hold school records in their sports. And in the scholar-athlete tradition, this year's class includes one inductee who has earned a doctorate and another who is finishing up a terminal degree. So please join me in giving a round of applause to all of our inductees for this year. Thank you.
Good morning. As chair of the Hall of Fame Committee, as Tracy said, my name is Jeff Hazard. I'm the Assistant Director of Athletics here and the Sports Information Director. And also, I get the honor of serving as the chair of the Hall of Fame Committee. And it was passed on to me by this gentleman right here, Don Fowelling, who we all know and love. Thank you very much for letting me have this honor. This is always a pleasure. This is one of the greatest events that we have on our campus, so I certainly would like to welcome everyone here this morning and thank you for your attendance. I'd like to call up our first gentleman this morning, the assistant coach of the 1949-50 team, John Carline.
I'd like to start our introduction to this team with a little background and information to put things in perspective. As you look at these gentlemen up here, it's hard for us to realize that probably we were playing before any of you were born. This was 60 years ago, and it doesn't seem like it's possible. And when we come into a facility like this, it takes our breath away when we think of where we were practicing and playing and doing the things that athletes do. But putting it in perspective, we are really excited about what's happening here at the State University of Oneonta. The opportunities that the athletes here today have are just mind-boggling for us. The recognition, if you notice that when the present Hall of Famers and past Hall of Famers were introduced, we were talking about 1970 and 80s and 90s and so forth. And it's exciting for us that these opportunities are available to you. But again, putting it in perspective, the accomplishments of this team are very, very exceptional. And it's hard to go through the haze of the past eras, 60 years, and recognize what they did. To win 19 games in a row and set scoring records of rebounding records, free throw shooting records, etc. This team is outstanding, and it took a team to the last game of the season to bring in a couple of three, I don't want to call them ringers, that's not right, transfers. 3 transfers that all were like, how tall, 6'6" or so? Anyhow, they were all big. And the team lost the last game of the season. Now, they say, okay, so what? Well, you want to remember, 16 years ago, there were no tournaments for schools of this size. I won't talk much about the enrollment because I think George Wetmore is going to talk a little bit about that. But when you have fewer than 100 men in school, and the draft was on, and players were leaving in the middle of the season because of their draft number was coming up, and so forth. There was no state university league for us to play in at that time, and there were no NCAA opportunities for schools of our size, no all-star selections, no opportunity for recognition individually or team-wise. And so this team has lived through the ages of not having any recognition. And I'm grateful, we're all grateful for the committee to resurrect non-existent records, if you will. And there were no photographs of any of the activities. And this committee has done a fine job, I believe, of going back through time and recognizing. And perhaps you wonder why there are only 4 players here. There's a manager here, and I happen to still be in existence. And the passage of time has taken its toll. And this is what's left of 12 outstanding basketball players, and we're happy they're recognized. The next thing I want to mention is that after World War II, there was no semblance, or little semblance of interscholastic competition among the smaller state colleges. Brockport, I think, perhaps, and Cortland being schools that attracted men because of their curriculum, had participation in many programs. The faintest vestige of opportunities for women, and there were no actual interscholastic women's competition at that time, but we did have a small start because from our very large intramural program, twice a year, I think it was, women were selected from the various sports of basketball and volleyball and softball, and there was a statewide competition, and some people selected this group of young women to go and represent the school. And even at that time, the team of women representing Oneonta won those tournaments for girls, for women. So we're happy there was a start. And that's what this team represents. This team represents the first full-fledged endeavor into the full schedule of interscholastic competition. There was some effort right after World War II in the late 40s to have some competition, but mostly it was with the local city league, with the area semi-pro teams and so forth, and very little interscholastic competition. But this team represented the first time we had a full schedule with other state schools. And so we're glad that we could set the foundation for you folks and for your opportunities today. We're real proud of your efforts and your production. We all watch the Reflections magazine and look at what records we can find in the news media about what Oneonta and its teams are doing. So don't feel that Oneonta is not on the map. Some of us that have been around for a little while still feel very close to Oneonta, and we're proud to be part of this institution and its great tradition, and we're happy to be here. I have the pleasure of introducing a young man that's going to give you some real interesting information about the background in the team. And I'm going to introduce the captain of our team, George Wetmore, has graduated from Oneonta High School. He was a captain of the Oneonta High School basketball team, I think, for 2 years. Outstanding ball player, a fantastic ball player, and unfortunately he only had the opportunity to play here at Oneonta for 1 year before he went to the service, but he made his mark on interscholastic activities and basketball here. So I'd like to introduce to you George Wetmore.
I began to wonder who he was introducing, so here I am. Bear with me a moment. Initially, I want to tell you all it's a genuine pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank President Klinuski, and I've been practicing your name for 2 days, and I love it because it's got character. It's not like Wetmore, it's Klinuski, and I really appreciate that. And she's made this beautiful facility available for us the past 2 days. I want to especially single out Tracy Ranieri, her staff, they've been wonderful. The Alumni Association and the selection committee singling out the 1949-50 basketball team to be honored for induction into the Distinguished Team category for the SUCO Hall of Fame. Now, I am so pleased to see some young student athletes out there. So I'm going to focus on you right now and try to tell you what it was like to be a student athlete here in 1949. First of all, there were 2 buildings, Old Main and Bugby School. Now, if you want to count the college camp, that was at the pond where Hunt Union is now. I won't count that. Now, all the instruction and everything was done in Old Main. Today, you have 44 buildings on this campus. The dorms, there were 0 dorms. Today, you have 15 dormitories on the campus. There are 29 other buildings on this campus for supportive services, administrative services, and instructional services. Where we're sitting right now is a cow pasture. It's 125 acres. And the president, who was president at the time I was here, and these gentlemen, was Charles Hunt. He was a wonderful man. And he had the vision that this would someday be a beautiful campus for a state university unit, and he really knew what he was talking about. After Charles Hunt, we got Royal Netzer, and he squeezed the Rockefeller administration to get money to put more buildings up. After Netzer came Clifford Craven, then Al Donovan, and now I believe we have Nancy Klinuski. So I have had contact in one way or another, except, well, this morning I made contact for 5 different presidents. And I'd like to tell you, I feel like I should be in the Antiques Roadshow, because I think that's unusual. The state budget allocation in 1949 was $1.4 million. And of that money, 3 buildings had to be erected. Today, your state budget is $73+ million. The library holdings, I don't know what they were. The library was in Old Main. I couldn't locate that figure. But today, you have 550,000 volumes plus in your library, Milne Library. The intercollegiate athletic sports, there were 2 teams, basketball, baseball, and only for men. As John said, there were no women teams. Today you have 21 intercollegiate teams, both men and women. The number of student athletes, when I was here with these gentlemen, there were 24 men participating in the sports program. Today, you have over 400 student athletes participating. The number of total undergraduate students in 1949 was 487. Of that 487, 93 men were on the campus. All the rest were women. Today, you have 5,878 full-time undergraduates. That's not counting graduate students, part-time students. The faculty numbered 53 when I was here. Today, you have 251 faculty and 181 part-time. The cost to attend in 1949, I cleared this with Tracy. I said, you really want me to tell them this? And she said, oh, go ahead, tell them. $15 student activity fee, no tuition. $5 New York State fee. $40 approximately for your books. $2.50 a week for a room downtown. There were no dorms. $11.25 a week for your board. After watching some of those basketball players eat breakfast this morning, they wouldn't last. I know they wouldn't. So today, well, I'll share it. You have $1,260 for your tuition, $9,270 your room and board, and New York State resident would pay a total of $15,500, which you people, some of you have to do today. But still, students, it's a good deal. Because if you check it out with other state universities, some other state university units, you'll find it isn't that much. It's much more. And if you go to a private school, and I went to Hartwick, so I feel I can say this, today it's approximately $50,000 to attend that other school over on the hill. Tracy said I had 5 minutes. I said, I don't need 5 minutes, but I'll try it. And I'd like to conclude. On behalf of all the members of the 4950 basketball team, I'd like to thank the selection committee, for bestowing this award on us. It has been a most rewarding weekend for us, and we will treasure it forever. Thank you very much. You want me to stand here tonight? Yep. Okay, they want me to stand here. Next recipient is next to me, Charlie Mitchell. Next will be Dave Hare. Over here, Dave. Next will be Ted Huntington. That's it. And we have our manager here, Bob Rowlands. And last, I guess, but not least, the assistant to Hal Chase, John Carline. It's not the last. Coach Hal Chase's son, Tim Chase. Thank you.
$15. I don't even know if I have $15 in my wallet. I have the privilege and the pleasure now to introduce Hurley McLean. Hurley McLean passed away in 2005, and I get to talk a little bit about Hurley based on the information that was submitted by John Hurley, who is here today. John, if you could please stand and be recognized. John was a longtime colleague of Hurley McLean and was responsible for getting us the information, so thank you, John. Hurley McLean, from all stories, was someone who never really wanted the spotlight, but whenever there was something that needed to be done, he would be the first one in line to pitch in and make sure that it got done right. And he helped some of the legends of this community, one in particular, Dutch Damashki, who we all know that there's a field downtown named after him. Very instrumental in a lot of youth programs in the city, just did whatever he could do to help out the local athletes, and when he came to Oneonta, it was the same philosophy for Hurley. He coached here. He coached our first men's soccer team in 1955. He also was a very successful baseball coach, and according to Kramer Harrington, I guess in a 3 or 4 year period while he was here, the team only lost 3 games, so that's pretty amazing accomplishment for that team and for Hurley. He was very instrumental in helping Oneonta become the All-Sports Championship. It's a trophy that's now equivalent to the Commissioner's Cup that we have now in the SUNY, and Oneonta won it practically every year, and Hurley was a big part of that. He also taught in our physical education. He was a health educator. He was a role model. He was a community leader, a civic-minded person who just did everything he could to help whoever was on his team or student athlete, anyone that would reach out to him. Accepting on Hurley's behalf, we are proud to introduce his daughter, Nancy Delameter. So please help me in welcome to the Athletic Hall of Fame, Hurley McLean. We would very much like to hear a couple of the stories from last night.
They did this to me last night, and I wasn't prepared then either, so this is off the top of my head. I'd just like to say on behalf of my 2 brothers, Ted and Jack, who are unable to be here today, that we appreciate all that your efforts in getting my dad into the Hall of Fame. My dad was a very modest person, and his teams came first. So this would be very humbling to him, I'm sure. But my dad was a great husband, a wonderful father, and best of all, he loved to coach, and he loved his teams. And I thank you all for making this special award for us today. My family appreciates this very much. I wish he was here to see this. Thank you.
My roots go back to 49 and 50. I was at Roberts Wesleyan College. I don't remember playing that year against you fellas, but in subsequent years we did play each other, so my roots go back that far. Also, they go back as far as Hurley McLean. When I came in 1961, we met Hal Chase down in the campus, on the only building on campus at that time. And Fran Daly was hired the same year, and we got together. I was hired for basketball and baseball, where Fran Daly was hired to coach wrestling and soccer. Well, what happened was that we got together and we were talking. I knew a little bit about baseball. I'd started the program at Roberts Wesleyan, but I'm not a baseball player. Fran was a baseball player, did not know anything about soccer. So what we did is we switched. And I became the soccer coach and basketball coach in 1961, and Fran took over the wrestling program and the baseball program. So my roots go back that far. This isn't about me and my program, this is about Werner Kluefer. But a little background, when I first came here in '61, what happened was that I inherited a team. Some of them were soccer players, but my situation at Roberts was that I was basketball coach, and anybody that came out for the basketball team had to play soccer because I was involved with the soccer program and started it there. So I was able to take athletes and train them, and we were successful. When I got the job at Oneonta, that tactic didn't work very well. Some reason, the kids that came out for the team, they either were soccer players, and I wasn't able to recruit players from the general population of the college and train them to be soccer players. Well, I did graduate work 4 summers at Indiana University, and when that was over with, got me up into about the middle of the 60s. I said, I've got to find players that have some talent so that we can be successful. So what I did is contacted coaches throughout the state, sent out mailings, did everything I possibly could to recruit players that had something behind their name, like All-State or All-Conference or All-League or an All-Star. And so this is what I did. Made contact with many players and then tried to get them here interested in the college. Took them over to Dick Burr's office, who was director of admissions, and tried to get them in college, and that's the way the program went. So we made contact with Werner when he was playing for White Plains High School, and lo and behold, very thankful that he decided to come here because he was one of those recruits that had statistics behind his name. He was an all-star and all-league player, so it was a real introduction to the other players to get players like that to come. I'm thankful that Harold Flint and Raul Ortega, 2 players that played with Werner, are here today. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. And they're in the same situation as Werner was. Okay. What I'd like to do is reminisce a little bit. Memories are good if you can remember. And I want to tell you about a goal that was scored but was never recorded. In those days, back in the 60s, we played east and west. The field was in that position. It's just the opposite the way it is now. And the goals that we had were made at the carpenter shop up in the upper part of the campus. They were made of 4x4s and had crossbars. It had a little sag in them usually, and then attached to the crossbar was an iron pipe held up on the sides by more iron pipes, and about 3 foot back from the crossbar there was another iron pipe that went 24 feet across with a little bit of a sag in it, and then the net was stretched on that. Well, we were playing Oswego, and it was a nice day as I can remember. I can remember exactly where I was standing. I know there's people here that were behind the goal. Werner picked up a ball. It was beyond the 18-yard line, and he struck it, hit that ball with tremendous force. It went under the crossbar, hit the back pipe, and came rebounding out, and the officials never called it a goal but continued on with the game. The goal was never recorded. It was not a goal. The officials didn't see it cross into the goal, hit the pipe, and come back out. It looked like it just hit the crossbar and rebounded back onto the field. So I remember that, something I'll never forget, the goal that was never recorded. Another story later on, after Werner had left Oneonta, gone back to Germany and was working for Bayer in Germany, I was developing contacts wherever I could and led me to different countries throughout the world. And I said, I've got to get over to Europe to see how this game is played and get a feel for all the different aspects of the game and to do some recruiting. So I called, made contact with Werner. He agreed to take me, house me and pick me up at the airport in Luxembourg. And for this, I'll be forever grateful and appreciative, because to travel to a foreign country by myself and not knowing the language, it was sort of a scary thing. But anyhow, Werner and his wife made me very comfortable, picked me up, took me through the German countryside to their home, and we had the opportunity to visit training facilities in Leverkusen and to see professional soccer games. Subsequently, I traveled back over to France and over into England and up into Scotland and over into Ireland, back to England, and then back to the United States. And then I went to training facilities and games in the United States, because at that time I had two players playing, one in Tampa and one in Dallas. So I went to both of those. So I tried to enrich my experience and make contacts wherever I could. So for this, I'm thankful for Werner and his family. I'm thankful that he came to Oneonta, and appreciate all that he did to help promote the program of soccer at Oneonta. And now, for Werner Kluefer, he was a 4-year soccer player for Oneonta. During his career, he was all-conference in 1967 and an all-state selection in 1968. He was selected as the team most valuable player for the 1968 season. In 1970, he played with the New York State All-Stars on the European Tour. He finished his career with 30 goals and 15 assists for 75 points. Werner graduated in 1961 with a degree in secondary education and then returned to his native country of Germany. He spent his entire professional life working in middle management with Bayer Incorporated. Please help me welcome 209 Hall of Fame inductee, Werner Kluefer.
Guten Tag alle zusammen, which means hello everybody. Well, you know how it is when you go in your last year in high school and you were a fairly good soccer player. Every school wanted to have you play soccer for that school. Well, I decided that I should go to Oneonta State for 3 reasons. First of all, I thought, or I believed, that I can get the education I wanted here at Oneonta. Second of all, I believed that I could help the soccer program get developed, especially after I have my discussion with Garber. And third of all, I love the campus and I love the surroundings. In 1971, when I graduated, I was confirmed that I got the education I wanted. Second of all, I think I helped the team a little bit, and I'm glad that 2 of my former players are here also today. And third of all, I still love the campus. Today, I still love the campus. I still love the surroundings. I still love the facilities you have here. And I'm very glad that I could come here and to receive this wonderful honor, which for me will be the second most remembered day in my life. And if you want to know the first one, that was the marriage in 1971. I want to thank the whole committee. I want to thank Tracy and everybody who was involved for this great honor. And I wish you, the former athletes or present athletes, a lot of success, both in your athletic career and your scholastic career here at this college. Thank you very much.
As I was coming in today with my umbrella up, I was thinking what a wonderful day it was for a doubleheader here at Oneonta. I'd like to talk a little bit about Mike Baran. Mike came here in '68 as a freshman and became our shortstop and continued playing short for us for the 4 years he was here. While he was here and playing shortstop, the team won 4 straight SUNY championships in a row. And Mike had a lot to do with it. In the baseball field, if you're strong up the middle, you have a good defensive team. Your catcher, your shortstop, your second baseman, and your center fielder. And Mike certainly filled the bill. He was a tremendous defensive player and did a great job for us. He was named to the all-conference team 3 times, and he was a co-captain in his senior year. Defensively, Mike had total chances, 298 total chances while he was here. And he had a fielding average of .951. He not only was a great fielder, but he also was a good hitter. He hit .317 in '68 and .318 second on the team in '69. Mike had a major of history here at the college, and he went to work for the New York State Labor Department for 33 years. And he retired in 1960 from his job. And I have the privilege of introducing Mike Baran to you. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks. I want to thank Tracy and the athletic department and Laura Matalone and the alumni affairs people. The selection committee, I think they did a really good job this year. And of course, my coach, Coach Axtell. I understand Coach is normally in Hilton Head by this time of year, but he delayed his trip so he could introduce me, and it really means a lot. I'm honored, I'm thrilled, and I'm humbled to receive this award, and I'll accept it on behalf of my coaches and my teammates. Coach said 4 conference championships, special. Doesn't happen that often. We, just to keep it in perspective, we lost only 3 games in the conference in those 4 years. And each one of those losses was a split of a doubleheader. So we never left the field against a conference opponent where the other team got the better of us. It's an amazing record. And we weren't, we were talented. We weren't always the most talented team on the field. We played teams that were just as good as us, even better than us, but we were successful. 3 things. We were prepared, we were in shape, and we were focused. I as a shortstop, I took particular pride in my defense. So I would always spend a little time focusing on the other team's shortstop. I'd have this little game in my mind as to how I stacked up against them. And my teammates knew that I had this desire. It was a need bordering on an obsession to be the best shortstop. One day, my senior year, we're playing Oswego, doubleheader up on the field. We win both games, naturally. During the after-game speech, Coach made a comment about wow, that Oswego shortstop, he looked pretty good, you know. I wish we had him here. So I'm looking like, all right, you know. So I said, you know what, I'm a senior. I'm going to be out of here in a couple of weeks. He was a good player. He's probably a sophomore or a freshman. I'm okay with it. I understand. I feel the same way if I was coach. I don't think about it again. I walk off. Monday morning, I walk in the locker room for practice. There they are, my buddies, my teammates. As soon as I walk in the locker room, total silence. No one will look at me. They're laughing under their breath. And the first thing is my mind, I said, okay, what did they do to my locker? Because we were a very mature bunch. But so anyway, there's a chalkboard in the locker room. Coach used to put notes. So I turn around, and there it is, written on the chalkboard, teams Baran couldn't play for. It's got Oswego, New Paltz, then it gets ridiculous, Delhi, Oneonta High School, They really, so I felt the need to express my feelings to my teammates at that point in time, and I can't remember my exact words, but I think it was something like, gee, fellas, that's not very nice. But I think my family and friends know that it was a little stronger than that. But anyway, I'm deeply honored. I thank my friends and my family for being here, everybody else for being here. I've got a chance to meet some of the baseball players. I appreciate that. As long as I have this microphone, I don't even know if this is appropriate, but I have a couple of teammates that I think are just as worthy of being here as me, if not more worthy. And I'd just like to throw their names out. A fellow named Gordy Costa, the best third baseman I ever played with, and a pitcher outfielder named John Wilhelm, who was probably the best hitter I ever played with. And for what it's worth, for the future, I think that they deserve this recognition. And I thank everyone for making this really one of the best days of my life. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Don Flewelling, and I was the basketball coach here for forever, and also was very, very lucky to be the women's softball coach for 11 years. And my job today here is to introduce Allison Weller to you. My wife is out there somewhere, and we were very fortunate to have 3 sons, never had any daughters. I'm going to introduce one of my daughters to you today. Before I start, I'd just like to say a word to Mike Baran. Everybody knows I'm a huge baseball fan, and when I watch Derek Jeter play, it reminds me of Mike Baran. He was that smooth and was that great a player. To Werner Kluefer, who I also had the privilege to coach as Garth's assistant in 1967, I remember that spot when he hit the goal, but he hit a lot more of them like that, and he had one of the best foots that I've ever seen here at the college. I got a call the other night from Kevin Crotier, who wanted to be here today, who was also a Hall of Famer, and wanted to say a word on behalf of Vince Foti. And he couldn't be here today, but he wanted to let Vince know how much the Crotier family was very indebted to him. And I'll say one thing before I get started about Vince Foti. If it hadn't been for guys like Vince Foti and Dick Burr and a few others, we wouldn't be here today in this gymnasium. There would be nobody out here. There'd be no Hall of Fame here today. He did some things in the 60s, 70s, and 80s for our department that kept us alive. And he won't get into that today, but I'm one of the people who benefited by Vince Foti being in our administration. And I know politically it hurt him to possibly at times be on our behalf. So Vince and Dick and others, we really appreciate what you did for us. Softball, pitching, defense, timely hitting. That's the game. Same with baseball. Allison Weller was heavily recruited. She came from Long Island. She played for the Long Island Chargers in the summer, which is probably one of the best teams on Long Island. Islip High School, East Islip, softball hotbed. Bayshore High School is in the same league every year, was in the finals in the States. She was recruited by University of New Haven, St. John's, Stony Brook, Dowling, LIU, very heavily recruited. First visit to the campus, she comes up in a snowstorm. We're practicing in the bubble over here. And if anybody knows anything about recruiting, when I recruited basketball players, I had to be very, very confident in my relationship with the mother because I was taking her son. When I'm recruiting softball players, I got to be very, very aware of the father. And Vinny, her dad, was a character. He was a limo driver on Long Island. Every time he came up, he'd always tell me who he had in the limo that week, whether it be Michael Jordan or somebody, some movie star or something. He was a character. He wanted Allison to stay close to home, somewhere on the island, where he could watch her play every game. And once he left our practice and saw how we ran our practices and what we did with our pitchers and so forth, I thought we had a chance to recruit her. So she comes. Softball in high school, from the mound to the home plate is 40 feet. College, it's 43. And there's a big difference for pitchers, that extra second the batter gets to have confidence in hitting. So I always used to we had a good fall schedule at the time. In the fall, we used to play a lot of Division I schools in the fall. Unfortunately, today the softball program can't do that. But we sometimes played 20, 25 games in the fall. So the first game that we played the fall she came was against St. Rose in Albany, who had the year before been in the Final 8 in Division II with everybody back. I says, hey, here's a good chance to throw the freshman out there, let her get banged around a little bit, let her understand that this is a whole new ball game. She threw a no-hitter. So that went down the tubes. We had two other great pitchers at the time, one in the Hall of Fame, another girl by the name of Thayer. So she had to kind of wait her turn to get a chance to pitch. And all during the time that she was here, she had an unbelievable, calm, cool, she was very collected, great student, great dry sense of humor. And I can remember the car that she used to drive was always full of Doritos. She would never clean her car. And she'd come down to the ballpark. We didn't have a field on campus. We had to get fields where we could. And she always drove that Jeep around because her father wanted her to have some kind of a car that worked, and of course it never worked half the time. And Coach Speranza, who's sitting out there today, had to wind up fixing it many times, I know that. But we had a great 4 years with her. And finally, during her senior year, we allowed her dad to actually come right down by the bench. And Allison was telling us for years and years, don't let my dad get near the field. And we go, you know. So here's her senior year, we're out there. Her dad comes right down, drives the limo up. She's there. She's going to pitch that day, of course, because our senior year, she was the only pitcher we had. And her dad comes down and gets thrown out of the game in the first inning. Umpire, she throws a pitch, it's not close to the strike zone or whatever, and next thing I know, Mr. Weller is gone. And we can't play the game until he's had to leave the field. So with that, with those couple of little stories, we talk now about Allison. She was a 4-year starting pitcher. During her 4 years, the team was 101-39. She alone had a record of 58 wins and 18 losses, including 29-9 as a senior when our team won the SUNY championship and participated in the NCAAs. She was an all-region pitcher, all-SUNY selection. She holds the single-season records for wins with 29, and this is in 1 year now, strikeouts, 144 innings pitched, complete games, and shutouts. She currently holds the career records in wins, innings pitched, complete games, shutouts, and second in career in strikeouts, sixth in ERA. Since she has graduated, she has completed a master's in science from Dowling, a master's of arts in history, and she's currently working on her PhD. She continues to teach social studies at Walter O'Connell High School in Copiague, where she's been since 2000. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of my daughters, Allison Weller.
I just want to say thank you to the committee and thank you to the college. It's actually it's an honor this year to be inducted with so many distinguished athletes. I want to thank my family and friends for being here. My 4 years in Oneonta are some of the best memories that I've had, and being part of the athletic department has really been a big part of that. Thank you, Coach Llewellyn and Coach John Speranzi somewhere out there for looking after me, keeping me out of trouble for 4 years. And yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I have been at the college for 19 years, and I know that I am a child, but I hope that you understand what a privilege it is to be here at this particular Hall of Fame event with so many memories from our past. And we are going to try and do everything we can to preserve those memories as we go into the future. So thank you to our presenters, and certainly thank you to our most recent inductees. I have the great privilege of introducing our honorary inductees, and there are so many wonderful people who helped to move athletics along at this college, and we could find no two finer people than Don Garber and Vince Foti to induct today. I'm going to start by talking about Don Garber. He graduated with a degree in business and journalism from Oneonta in 1979. And he was the president of the senior class. Now, all of you and our students are here. I'm thrilled. It's very difficult to be in other clubs and be in the student association as a member of our athletic team, and some of you are. We're very proud of that. So I don't really need to say that much more about Don than being the president of the senior class, but there's lots more to say. In 1999, he was named commissioner of Major League Soccer, and has spent the last 16 years in a variety of positions prior to that with the National Football League. Since assuming Major League Soccer's top position, Don's vision and leadership has enabled MLS to build a strong foundation for professional soccer in the United States and generate unprecedented momentum for the future of soccer. With one eye on making Major League Soccer one of the world's best soccer leagues, and another on developing one of America's premier sports and entertainment properties, Don has guarded the league through landmark decisions which have solidified MLS's core business, positioned it for growth, and guaranteed the league's long-term viability. Prior to becoming commissioner of MLS, Don was the senior vice president, managing director of NFL International, where he oversaw all aspects of the NFL outside of the United States, including the NFL Europe League. Don, who guided NFL International since its creation in 1996, managed a group that grew from 5 employees based in the NFL offices of New York to a global organization of more than 130 people, with offices in Canada, Mexico, England, Germany, and Japan. Revenues and profits increased significantly during his tenure. Before being appointed as the head of NFL International, Don was vice president of business development and special events for NFL Properties, the marketing arm of the National Football League. This group, which he created in 1990, was responsible for all non-game NFL television programming and production, event marketing, grassroots activities, and entertainment programming, and was responsible for creating the sports event industry standard, the NFL Experience. Don is a member of the United States Soccer Federation Executive Committee and also serves on the board of directors of the United States Soccer Foundation and the National Soccer Hall of Fame Board of Trustees. Outside of soccer, Don is on the advisory board of the Hope and Heroes Pediatric Cancer Foundation at New York's Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, the board of directors of the National Campaign Against Youth Violence, and the board of directors of Princeton Video Image, a high-tech broadcasting company. This past spring, Don received an honorary doctorate degree from Oneonta during our commencement ceremonies. It's with great pride that we celebrate his successful career both at Oneonta and now as an Oneonta alum. Please warmly welcome Don Garber to the 2009 Hall of Fame.
Yes, that's what hair was like in the 70s, for those of you who... Thanks a lot, Tracy, and very importantly, thank you from all of us on the dais and in the audience and students for being such a great leader for our school's athletic programs. I'd like to thank the committee for including me in such a special celebration. I really want to thank Dr. Kluefer for doing such a wonderful job in helping to take our school, Oneonta State, to a higher level and focusing in on the right priorities every day. You know, I'm very honored to be here today, and I'll talk a little bit about what kinds of things I think about every day in the pro sports business and why my experience here at Oneonta helped create that vision, if you will, for me. But I also want to really thank and congratulate the honorees. These folks are all true athletes, and they're really very much and have very genuinely earned the right to be up here today. You know, I have to say that during my time here, my athletic accomplishments at Oneonta State were limited to winning the intramural championship in football my freshman year. And I can remember being up on that hill and that feeling that I had in class getting ready to go up to that championship game, and I know what a great feeling it was to win that game. So I could just imagine what it was like for all the people up here on the dais to not be playing just intramural sports, but to be playing truly for their university and representing all their students in their various sports. But even with that football victory under my belt, I never really expected that I'd spend 16 years working at the NFL, the last 10 years working at Major League Soccer, or being on the board of our federation, or helping to lead bringing the World Cup back to the United States sometime over the next 10 or 15 years. And that's particularly true since my exposure to soccer during my Oneonta days was limited to watching and attending Red Dragon games. I had the pleasure of seeing Farouk Qureshi, one of the great players in our country, not just a great player for Oneonta State. Farouk was the Herman Award winner in 1974, which is the honor for the best men's soccer player in the country. And Farouk went on to play for the NASL, the precursor to Major League Soccer. He's still living down in Tampa and is still working hard in the sport of soccer today. You know, Farouk set a foundation along with Coach Stam for what would be a very rich and storied soccer tradition here at school. As most of you know, it's a big part of the soul of not just this school, but also the city. Our men's team was perennial powers for many, many years, and we're all very proud of our women's team that's won an NCAA national championship and is consistently one of the best women's teams in our region. The National Soccer Hall of Fame, as you know, is on the south end of town. I'll say to all of you Oneonta residents that we're going to try to do all we can to keep the Hall of Fame here in town. Many Oneonta grads have gone on to stay in the sport. Many of them have coached in Major League Soccer, have played in the sport at a very, very high level. We even had a couple of guys that coached for the U.S. national team. So the core of this sport really lives in this school and lives in the city, and I hope to continue to have it live through me in the professional ranks. But, you know, as I said, as a student, I was just a fan. And I guess what this proves to me is that success in the sports business is really less about participation, and it's more about having the right leadership and the right character and the right integrity and vision. And these are qualities that I learned during my days here 30 years ago. And it's these characteristics that I believe are at the heart of collegiate athletics. You know, I'll never forget the day several years ago when former President Alan Donovan called me up and he said, "Hey, I got to let you know that the men's soccer program is going to be moving down to Division III. You know, he said that at that time the school had lots of priorities that would really be better served with the funding going to support a wide variety of academic programs and athletic programs, furthering the goals of women's athletics and even some of the smaller sports. And so initially I was obviously very upset at hearing that news, but today, and I think after I thought about it, I very much agreed with that decision. So while we do have a very storied soccer tradition for our men's program, there are just so many other priorities, not just at this school, but at many colleges across the country that need our support. You know, it is nice to win championships, but building national acclaim and with that the commensurate revenue that comes with those victories, in my view, shouldn't take precedent over the fundamental ethics and the simple common sense that all of us need to be thinking about when we think about college sports. In my view, our educational system is just much better served if we continue to emphasize the student and student athletes. Now, some of you may know that the the president of the NCAA just recently passed away, a guy named Miles Brand, and he really is a guy that all of us in sports need to thank for all of the work that he's done and the tremendous strides that collegiate athletics has made in emphasizing student athletics. Now, I get the fact that schools want to build their brands just like any other company, and sports are really uniquely positioned to help schools do that. But with that recognition and with that financial reward comes a lot of risk. And I think about how long it took Bingham University to earn the respect and to be revered as one of the top schools in our state, only to have to face the reality that that great reputation has probably been tarnished a bit for being too aggressive in pursuing those victories or pursuing tournament revenue. And it seems to me that all too often, too many schools, all of us have to read about recruiting violations and challenges that athletic programs have, including schools, by the way, in our SUNY system. You know, we as public SUNY students have an opportunity to get a tremendous education, including we get a great opportunity to have terrific student athletes and have great athletic programs. But ultimately, and I say this as someone who depends on a steady stream of athletes to come into the pro ranks, all of us, whether in sports or in the rest of the world, are much better off to have students, including student athletes, that come out of our schools as really productive and ethical citizens of our society, both during the days they play and the days they leave. So I love the fact that the Oneonta Athletic Department has a mission and a vision to develop top scholar athletes who strive for competitive excellence and academic achievement, and where there is a commitment, a true commitment to integrity and sportsmanship. And I know I speak for all of us to say how proud we are of that mission. And it is okay to celebrate achievement, and it's okay to celebrate victories. And I, for one, can say that winning does matter, but winning can't matter at all costs if we're going to really focus on having the right path for all of our students, including student athletes. So, you know, in closing, I want to say that I really cherished my days at Oneonta, especially some of the great experience that I had playing basketball and flag football and teaching skiing up in college camp, and I feel very fortunate to have attended such a great institution that prepared me for such a long and hopefully successful career in professional sports. And finally, I'm really grateful to have attended a school that has such a rich soccer tradition. I didn't know I'd be in this business when I attended this school, but I'm really proud of the fact that I came from a place where soccer really mattered. So I want to thank all of you for this honor and thank for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. Hopefully I'll be able to continue to lead the sport of soccer in this country, and through the experiences that I've had here today, continue to remind our athletes that it's okay and important to be a role model, and it's okay to recognize that you got to give back to your community. And if all of us do that at the collegiate ranks and the pro ranks, then I think our country is going to be a better place. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. Our final inductee is Vince Foti, and I know everybody in this room knows Vince Foti. Vince has had a long association with Oneonta. Since 1953, as a freshman, he completed his bachelor's degree in 1957 in secondary social science. In 1960, he received his master's from Oneonta in early secondary social science. He has an MED from Siena and a doctorate in higher education administration from Albany. Vince is being honored this year as a Hall of Fame inductee to his long-time support of Oneonta athletics, and some of our presenters have already spoken on Vince's behalf. But his longtime support of Oneonta spans 50 years. During his association, he worked closely with student athletes and coaches, concentrating on the students' academic needs. During his tenure as an academic administrator, he actively supported both the physical education and athletic programs, and as Don Flewelling mentioned, oftentimes not being very popular. A whole lot of what Vince Foti has done has been behind the scenes as a counselor and a mentor. And as somebody who has been here only 19 years, I hear it routinely from student athletes that have graduated how Vince Foti has impacted their lives. Vince was recognized at the Athletic Association Annual Awards Ceremony numerous times by receiving the Coaches Appreciation Award as well. Vince's initial position at the college was the Associate Dean of Students, a position he held until 1972. During the next 21 years, until his retirement in 1993, he served the college in various administrative capacities, retiring as Dean of Behavioral and Applied Science. In retirement, he still works part-time for the admissions office, helping to recruit talented students and student athletes to the college. As an original member of the Hall of Fame Committee, Vince has been an integral member of the Veterans Committee, which researches the credentials of old-timers who are outstanding student athletes from the early years of Oneonta athletics when we didn't keep records. He can always be seen at athletic events, and still today I won't be surprised to see him out in this rain watching the women's game. During his tenure with the college, Vince served as president of the Alumni Association in 1969, was chair of the Intercollegiate Athletic Board from 1987 to 1989, and he served on that board for more than 8 years. He continues to work part-time, as I said, in the admissions office, so retirement is still far away. But I think what all of us know and love about Vince, separate from his credentials, is that Vince was the consummate professional and is beloved by many alumni for his devotion to the deep belief in the helping way. The helping way was the Oneonta way, and his mission was to create an environment for students where there was no fear of failure, that Oneonta would be students' home away from home. His contagious energy and enthusiasm for student-athlete success carried into a lifelong commitment to our local community, where his philanthropic endeavors are far-reaching. Vince's son, Vince Jr., is in the audience, and he said growing up, his brother Dean won many awards. Vince Jr. was frustrated by this until his father Vince told him, "You won't be measured by the trophies you win, but by the person that you are." Vince's support for the college is immeasurable. I'm proud to welcome him to the college's 2009 Class Hall of Fame. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. First, I want to congratulate the other inductees. I'm proud to be on the same stage with many of them. Their achievements far outweigh anything I've ever done, especially athletically, and I feel very humbled to be receiving an award in the same company with those people. No one gets here on their own. I stood on the shoulders of countless people to reach this stage today. In retrospect, one never knows who to thank. Much philosophical ink has been spilled on who the people are who most influence us during our lives. I'll recognize some of those people who were very important to me later. Let me get one thing straight, however, right up front. I'm not on this stage this morning because of my soccer skills back in 1955. And there are some soccer players in the audience, Joe Spanfelder, Don Jester, a few others, who know that I'm not here because of my soccer skills. Hurley McLean, who was honored earlier, was my soccer coach, and if he were alive, he would tell you I don't deserve to be here because of my soccer skills. Yes, I was on that first team, but barely. There were 20 guys on that team, 15 of whom had never seen a soccer ball before the age of 20, and many of whom found the game to be very difficult to master. It's not one of those games that you can learn from scratch at the age of 20. That's when I first began to understand the curse of the bell-shaped curve as it applied to my soccer skills. I'm here because I spent my career at this college as an administrator, and many of my efforts found me in a role as an advocate for athletes and athletics. Found me working very closely with the coaches, many of whom you see here on the stage, and the phys ed staff, working many times behind the scenes, many times without the knowledge of the athletic department. Some of you may remember the SUNY budget years, the difficult years of the 80s, when we had a governor named Cuomo, who thought one of the ways to solve the state's budget problems was to cut the SUNY budgets, and we, of course, were cut very severely back in those years, and the SUNY budget cuts filtered down to the phys ed department rather severely. And those cuts were pretty hard to take. Actually, as I think about it, I think we have a governor right now who read Cuomo's book on cutting the state budget by using the state university. At any rate, many of us fought very hard to protect athletics here. Sometimes our pleas were heard and sometimes they weren't. We had some hard-fought battles involving athletics, and the fight sometimes made us feel like cemetery managers. We had a lot of people under us, but nobody was listening to us. But I had to use that. It unfortunately wasn't original with me, but I had to use it because it well describes the feeling that we had during our battles to keep athletics and to keep athletics surviving here. But I wouldn't trade a minute of it. Although we didn't win all the battles, athletics survives here and it thrives here on this campus, in large measure because of the efforts of many of the people who fought those battles many years ago with us. And of course, our present good fortunes are the result of a lot of hard work and support by a dedicated staff, starting with Tracy and Jeff and Bart and many others who continue to work hard to keep our athletic program strong. I must also mention the coaches, the present coaches who are here, who are continuing a tradition of strong athletics. I do have many people to thank. Of course, I have to thank Bart Ingersoll for having the confidence to nominate me. I thank members of the Hall of Fame committee for voting to induct me. I have to thank someone named Dr. Kerry Brush, a retired vice president, for his confidence. He was a great influence on me, served as a mentor, helped my professional career immensely. Unless you're an old-timer here with some history, you may not recognize the name of Dr. Brush, but he was one of those who was a strong supporter and usually, again, behind the scenes, a supporter of athletics at this college. I'm grateful to the many coaches with whom I had the pleasure to work. Notably among them are Hal Chase, Don Flewelling, Garth Stam, Al Sosa, Ed Kassler, Corky Lynch, Al March, and some others I'm sure I'm leaving out. Those coaches and a few others marched many student athlete into my office. And there were a lot of student athletes that worked with these coaches, were summoned into my office for various reasons. And you got to go light on the student part of the term student athlete. Some of the ones I'm talking about had a difficult time here, but it's gratifying to be remembered by so many of the athletes so many years later. Thanks especially to those who keep coming back and remembering some of our sessions in my office, some of those tough sessions that they had to endure and I had to endure that kept them in school. But it is a thrill to have your work appreciated. I also want to thank Dick Burr, another supporter of Oneonta State Athletics with whom I had the pleasure of working for so many years, another behind-the-scenes force who's helped athletics for many years on this campus. Time doesn't permit me to thank all of the people, but there are many others I should be thanking. Suffice it to say, if you're here, you know who you are, and I appreciate your help. I'd like to thank Tony Drago, who's in the audience. He is a local high school coach and athletic director, and he's been a longtime friend and role model. And I thank all of them, every one of them, for their varied contributions to helping me get here today. But in addition to people, I have to thank this institution. It's been a very important part of my life, first as a student for 4 years, then as an employee for 20-some years. Even now, as a part-time employee in the admissions office, I've been doing this part-time job. Dick offered me a job a few years ago. I was going to do it for a couple of years. That was 17 years ago. I'm still doing it. But Oneonta State has been very good to me. And I'm still on the road, beating the drums for Oneonta State and its athletic programs. I'm still telling high school students that this college is an ideal place to work on excellence, theirs and ours, and I firmly believe that, as I did when I started here a long time ago. For me, Oneonta State came, and before I knew it, it went. And in that long process, you have to be, as I was, attracted to the spirit of this college. And if you're not affected by the spirit of this place, the spirit that surrounds this college, then you're not alive. And finally, I must thank the most important people in my life, my family, my parents, my brothers, Pat and Tom, my sisters, Mary and Angie, my children, Vince, Dean, TJ, Dana, my children's spouses, Donna, Holly, Norma, and Rob. I have to mention all these people because they're sitting right back there. My 10 grandchildren, bear with me, Joanna, George, Tegan, Cameron, Tyler, Cooper, Aubra, Laney, Sophia, and Laney. That back section is all mine, and I do appreciate the fact that they have taken a great deal of some of them have come great distances to be with me today. I appreciate that effort of them to be here, but most of all, I appreciate their love and support. And finally, I must thank my wife, Gail, the proverbial great woman behind the man. She has supported me in too many ways to mention here, but suffice it to say I am forever grateful for her love of sport. It made my work and my life a joy. And I do appreciate her support. And I leave you with one closing thought. As some of you may know, I once taught mathematics, and I've had a lifelong love for philosophy. And therefore, it's natural for me to have always admired the great Italian mathematical philosopher, Lucky Luciano. Much of the philosophy of mathematics is too technical and difficult to explain here. The only thing you really need to know, as Luciano so clearly pointed out, when it comes to mathematics, there are three kinds of people. Three kinds of people. Those who can count and those who can't. Thank you very much.
We have inducted students. We have inducted athletes. We have inducted leaders. We have inducted warriors. We have inducted heroes. This has been an extraordinary day. In closing, I want to tell you that we're not quite done yet. We've got a couple more surprises for you. When our inductees leave the stage, they are going to go have photographs with their plaques out in the atrium. After that time, they're going to come back onto the stage, and if you can stay for a very candid interviews with Jeff Hazard, we have just started a new program on TV called Inside Red Dragon Sports. And this will be run on November 11th. November 11th, if you want to click on our homepage and watch a very candid look at our Hall of Famers from the 2009 class. After that, I hope you'll bear the weather and watch a soccer game. It's a very important one for us. And if you're still here, from 4 to 6 tonight, we are having an alumni athlete reception in the skybox on the 3rd floor of this beautiful building. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending, and congratulations to our 2009 Hall of Famers.